My name is Richard Marsco. I am the District Small Business Liaison for Caltrans District 5. If you have any questions while we're presenting, you're welcome to unmute yourself if you feel comfortable doing so. You can also type your questions in the chat, and I think there's a raise your hand feature, and so you can do that. And Gabby's going to kind of assist me with that part. We have a lot to go through, so this is a little bit longer of a presentation than normal, so we have still the same hour though to do it. So I'll kind of fly through a little bit of the information that, but you're always welcome to ask questions, and we do kind of repeat a lot of the information so that you can have a good understanding of it. So thank you to the Women's Business Center of San Luis Obispo for sponsoring today's presentation. My name is Richard Marsco, Caltrans District 5 District Small Business Liaison, or DSBL for short. It is my duty to assist small businesses in navigating Caltrans processes. Caltrans District 5, by the way, consists of the counties of Santa Barbara, San Luis Obispo, Monterey, San Benito, and Santa Cruz. Today's presentation is titled Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Certification Overview. This is the 7th installment in the Paving the Road to Success with Caltrans series of training presentations that are specifically authored to assist small businesses. And don't worry too much if you haven't been able to join us for all of the previous ones or only a few of them. They're all sort of standalone, although they sort of build upon each other. So no worries there. As the title suggests, today we will focus on the DBE certification, including eligibility requirements, how to become certified, and the benefits of certification. Okay, before we begin, I'd like to review our non-discrimination policy. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination based upon race, color, and national origin. Specifically, 42 U.S.C. 2000D states that no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So this is really at the heart of everything Caltrans hopes to achieve. And we have provided a link on the screen if you wanted to find out a little bit more information about that. So you're welcome to look that up. And we will be, I think Gabby's going to help me by providing this PowerPoint to everybody. So don't worry about all these long links you're going to see as we go through the presentation. We'll get those to you. Department mission: provide a safe and reliable transportation network that serves all people and respects the environment. Caltrans strives to provide a safe, sustainable, integrated, and efficient transportation system to enhance our state's economy and livability. As you can see from some of the numbers quoted on this slide, maintaining California's transportation system is an incredible operation in its scope. The 4th and 5th bullet points should really capture your attention, as Caltrans is telling you it needs assistance, and contracting partners in the private sector are essential. We need help, and hopefully this means opportunity. Today's learning objectives: Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Program Overview. As the title suggests, we'll talk about the benefits of certification, the California Unified Certification Program, or CUCP, eligibility requirements, applying for DBE certification, and frequently asked questions and resources. Caltrans recognizes 3 business certifications: small business, or SB. The small business umbrella is a state of California certification, includes the micro business designation and the adjacent small business for the purpose of public works, SBPW certification. We also have the Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise, or DVBE. The Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise is also a state of California certification that seeks to assist armed forces veterans with service-related disabilities who have left military service. Disadvantaged Business Enterprise, which is today's focus, is a federal certification to address the disparity between some businesses and others in terms of access to economic opportunity, and seeks to level the playing field for these businesses. DBE certifications are based upon an owner being a member of certain minority groups or women-owned. When a project has even $1 of federal funds, you can expect to see some type of DBE goal. So not always, not every time, but almost always. On this slide, you can see what Caltrans goals are in regard to these certifications. 25% on SB and 5% on DBB on state-funded contracts, and then 22.2% on DBE goals on federally funded contracts. Okay, let's begin our overview of the DBE certification program. A DBE again, disadvantaged business enterprise, is a for-profit small business that is at least 51% owned by one or more individuals who are both socially and economically disadvantaged. Also, the management and daily business operations of a DBE business must be controlled by one or more of the socially and economically disadvantaged individuals who owns it. So you can't just be a name on a piece of paper. You have to actually be involved in the business operations. Socially and economically disadvantaged persons are, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation, U.S. DOT, you'll hear me say that a lot today, any individuals who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural bias within American society because of their identity as members of groups and without regard to their individual qualities. The DBE program was established in 1983 and is a legislatively mandated program implemented by the Federal Highway Administration, FHWA, as a condition of states receiving federal funding. So I should mention this. So a lot of Caltrans projects are funded by the federal government, and that's pretty common. Many of the state projects are funded by the state taxpayers, but there's also some funding that comes from the federal government. And that's, so the FHWA would be the folks who kind of help us with that. The next two slides state the DBE program objectives: ensure non-discrimination in the award and administration of US DOT assisted contracts, help remove barriers to the participation of DBEs in US DOT assisted contracts, assist the development of firms that can compete successfully in the marketplace outside of the DBE program, ensure that the department's DBE program is narrowly tailored in accordance with applicable law, create a level playing field on which DBEs can compete fairly, ensure that firms that meet eligibility requirements ensure that firms that meet eligibility standards in the Code of Federal Regulations 49 CFR 26, promote the use of DBEs in all types of federally assisted contracts and procurement activities. And you can find more information about the 49 CFR 26 regulation by utilizing the link on the screen. And that's where you'll see like all the legalese and everything. So there's a lot of information if you use that. Let's address the benefits of DBE certification. DBE certifications are recognized by 900 local agencies and private companies throughout California. It expands opportunities for small business participation in federally funded projects, as I mentioned, listing in official directories such as the California Unified Certification Program, CUCP database. And we'll discuss the CUCP program in some upcoming slides. DBE certification can lead to a small business becoming more accessible to prime contractors needing to fulfill DBE goals. So basically, you'll become more attractive to larger companies who may not meet the DBE standard, but have to use DBE companies in a subcontracting process. So that's another kind of benefit to having your certification. You get increased networking opportunities for, to meet other firms, and it's free to apply. So that's kind of cool, except for notary fees. And we'll talk about that further. Okay, so let's move on to the California Unified Certification Program, referred to as the CUCP. As mandated by the US DOT, California's Unified Certification Program, the CUCP, is an agreement between multiple agencies who authorize DBE certifications in California. The CUCP provides a public database so you can find DBE certified companies. You can also view competitors' profile information. So you as a person can go on there and check out what other companies are doing, and it might help you, first of all, with your own profile, but just to also see what your competitors are up to. So here's some of the certifying agencies, or here's all of them, I should say. And you'll notice Caltrans is probably the only statewide agency on this list. Actually, it's the only one, excuse me. Other certified agencies include the City of Los Angeles Metropolitan Transportation Authority, Bay Area Rapid Transit, BART, the City of Fresno, just to name a few. Once you choose a certifying agency, please note, however, that they will be the sole provider of assistance moving forward. To reiterate, Caltrans will be unable to offer certification assistance if your company is being processed by a fellow CUCP agency. So you can get your DBE certification through any of these 10 organizations if your company resides in California. But once you choose one, that's it. So we're not saying you have to choose Caltrans for sure. Just choose whichever one you'd like to. Of course, we'll talk about Caltrans today because that's who I'm representing. And it doesn't really matter which agency you go through. Just know that once you're going through that agency, that will be the agency moving forward. All recipients of US DOT funds are required to establish a DBE program. All CUCP participants operate under one agreement and must comply with all provisions of regulation concerning certification. There are currently 10 agencies that we just saw. The CUCP was developed under a mutual agreement between certifying agencies within California, creating a one-stop shop for DBE certification. While Caltrans certification branch certifies eligible firms throughout California, there are other agencies which provide DBE certification in their geographic location. For instance, BART, right? They're going to be in the Bay Area. For more information, please visit the CUCP portal, and the link is provided on the screen. Please note we will also provide a lot more Caltrans specific DBE resources moving forward in the presentation. So we've discussed who certifies you. That would be the previous slides. Let's look at which companies are eligible to become certified. So criteria for DBE eligibility include social and economic disadvantages, ownership, control, independence, your personal net worth or PNW, and we'll talk a lot about that. Business size, certifying agencies are required to request tax documents, personal identification documents, and business documents to certify that the potential DBE meets the eligibility criteria. Please note, there may be other information requested, especially if they need further clarification about something. All right, social and economic disadvantage. This refers to 6 presumptive groups who are considered disadvantaged by the federal government. These include Asian Pacific Americans, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, subcontinent Asian Americans, and women. If you do not fall within one of these presumptive groups, you can submit a narrative explaining how you are socially and economically disadvantaged, and then they will process it to see if you meet the requirements. So for sure, people in this group would be considered for the DBE certification. However, there are situations where people that are not in one of these groups can still kind of prove that they have had social and economic disadvantage. Ownership must be a for-profit small business, so non-profits unfortunately don't qualify, where socially and economically disadvantaged individuals own at least 51% interest and control management and daily business operations. So you can't just also be the money person, you have to as well be doing the work. Ownership cannot be in name only. In the case where there are multiple owners, 51% must be comprised of socially and economically disadvantaged individuals. So let's say you had 3 people who own your business. You each have 33 1/3% ownership. And 2 of you were part of the presumptive groups that we discussed on the previous slide, but 1 of you is not. That's okay, because the 2 people will qualify for over 51% when you combine them. So that will work. And we're going to provide a bunch of resources and information of where you can, if you have questions about this, because it can feel a little complicated. Sorry, went too far. Control. The 51% owner must possess the required license or credential, if required by law, to own and or control a certain type of firm. This means that if, for example, you are an engineering firm with 3 owners, but only 1 holds the required licenses, that specific person must have management control of daily business operations. An independent business is one that the viability does not depend on its relationship with another firm or company, or firm or firms, sorry. This means that the business cannot be dependent on another firm to provide personnel, facilities, equipment, or financial support. Now, this can get complicated, right, if you're a franchise owner. So we'll definitely have you talk to an expert on something like that. I won't have as much information to give you because I don't want to tell you the wrong thing. Personal net worth, PNW. So we talked about it, we mentioned it previously, but let's talk about it a little more. The 51% majority owner must not exceed a personal net worth, so you personally, of 1.32 million. This number will probably increase in the future, just letting you know it does increase every few years, but that's the current one. Your primary residence would not be included in this amount. So if you own like a house that's worth $500,000, that won't be considered part of your personal net worth, nor would the value of your business. Business size standard. A firm's 3-year gross receipts average must not exceed 26.29 million. It's at least for construction. Other industries will vary, and there's so many, that's why we can put them up, but construction's the most common one that deals with Caltrans. These gross receipt numbers will probably increase in the future, just like I mentioned with the personal net worth. If you have less than 3 years of average gross receipts, please contact our certification office for guidance. You can still become certified. So if you've only been in business for, say, 2 years instead of 3, it doesn't prohibit you necessarily from becoming certified. So let's talk about how to apply for the DBE certification. We'll provide you step-by-step direction. And I'm going to fly through some of this because it can be a little convoluted when you're trying to explain it without looking at the actual website. But we do have some screenshots. And just know that, like anything in life, there's several different ways to find this information. So we're happy to help you if you have any trouble finding it. And again, you're going to get a copy of this PowerPoint. The application process. The usual processing time is within 90 days after your application is deemed complete. So I really want to make that part clear. If you send, say they wanted 5 documents from you and you only sent 4, then the clock doesn't start ticking for the 90 days until they get that last document. So if you happen to send that a month later, that means the 90 days starts then. And that kind of makes sense, but they will definitely reach out to you to let you know that you were incomplete in your paperwork. However, if it is incomplete, the certification branch will reach out to you. Like I said, the time clock will start once all the required information is received. So once the DBE certifying office has received all the required documents listed on the document checklist, the application process begins. Your application will be reviewed by an analyst and an interview will be scheduled. An analyst from the certification office may visit your business or home office or conduct, most likely it'll be the second thing I'm about to say, or conduct a virtual inspection for the on-site interview. The certification analyst will interview the majority owners and principals. Once the interview has been completed, your analyst, along with the certification manager, so that's here at Caltrans if you're using us to certify, will make the determination of your application and you will be notified whether your application was approved or denied. The next 2 slides are examples of step-by-step directions on where to find the electronic DBE application. From the Caltrans homepage, you find information about the DBE program by navigating to the Office of Civil Rights or OCR webpage. That's an internal department here at Caltrans. One of the ways to get there is to click on the program icon at the top of the Caltrans homepage, click on Civil Rights link, click on the California Unified Certification Program link. This will take you to the California Unification Certification Program. Click Find a Certifying Agency under the Vendor Certification section. An online certification screen will populate. Here, there will be 4 certifying agencies and their respective areas to choose from, depending on the area location your firm can work. For this example, select shows details under the Is Your Firm Located in Northern California area, and then you can choose the Caltrans certifying agency. So basically, they're going to see from your from where your business is located. They're going to give you what are the best local agencies to use. The great thing, however, is that Caltrans will appear for everybody because we're, again, the only statewide. You click with a list of all the counties on a specific area, click California Department of Transportation, click apply for or renew certification under the vendor certification section. Once the online certification screen populates, click create account and begin following the prompts to answer all the questions. You must create an account prior to completing the application. One thing to remember is you may already have an account due to a previous relationship with other agencies. Therefore, prior to creating a new account, it is always best to look up account to ensure you are not currently in the system. You'll probably know this, but it could be a situation where you're now in charge of something that maybe a previous person was in charge of. Perhaps they retired, perhaps they sold the business to you, or perhaps it was a worker for you and they've moved on. So this can be done by clicking the lookup account link. You'll need to create an online account, as we mentioned, to complete your certification application. Creating an account will allow you to renew your profile after certification and complete annual renewals. This account is a portal for everything related to your certification moving forward. To complete setting up your account, the following information is required: your tax ID, your business information, your contact information, and a contact person. Most likely that will be you, right? Because you're the one that's on the system. To ensure security of your new DBE application, only you or the designated account holder will have access to this record once it is created. We really suggest that you make sure that if you're an owner and you have a person like in your admin doing this for you, that you make sure that you are also allowed to access, and we'll talk about that. By starting the process, it will initially be assigned to you. No one else can access unless you reassign it to another user or explicitly grant access by clicking the Utilities tab and adding a user to the access list. So you can add other employees later, but just keep in mind that if that person moves on, you want to make sure you still have access to the account. Also, please keep in mind that you'll have 90 days to complete and submit your DBE application once you begin. So let me make that really clear. Once you start this process, your own time clock starts and you have 90 days to complete it. So my suggestion would be to do it within a day or so of starting it. But if you wait, because maybe you don't have all the documents, it might be a good idea to then sort of hold off on starting it. Periodic reminders will be sent to you by email. And just so that you know, a deleted DBE application cannot be recovered. You will need to start again. So if you, for whatever reason, you took more than 90 days to complete this thing, it will just disappear. And that's a frustrating experience. So, be mindful of that. Most likely, like a lot of us, you'll just sit down one day and do it all at once, but just be careful if you do decide to do it to extend that. Personal net worth statement. So we're going back to that. Along with your application, you'll need to submit your personal net worth statement, also known as a PNW. The next couple of slides will give you a better understanding of a PNW. The PNW is a required supplement to the application. The PNW and the DBE application both need to be notarized. This is probably the only fee associated with DBE certification. It should include your own share of assets held separately, jointly, or as community property with a spouse. And individuals' PNW must not exceed, we talked about this number, 1.32 million to be eligible for the DBE certification program. And we're going to talk a little more about personal networks. That's how important it is. Within the PNW, you will be required to complete some of the following: assets and liabilities, examples of assets, cash, assets in a trust, real estate, examples of liabilities, mortgages, loans on life insurance, unpaid taxes. List any stocks and bonds and or retirement accounts. Additional real estate property. So if you have investment properties that you say rent out, those will need to be listed. Property leased or rented for business purposes. So that would be that could be the property where your business is located, but also if you own another business. List life insurance policy information and beneficiary information. Include any other personal property or assets not previously listed: automobiles, recreational vehicles, motorcycles, boats, etc. So like all your fun weekend vehicles. Additional businesses, like I mentioned, such as sole proprietors, general partnerships, joint ventures, LLCs, and or any other publicly traded corporations. So in addition to your own firm that you're trying to get certified, if you have other companies, you will need to kind of list some information about that. Other liabilities or unpaid taxes in detail, information regarding the transfer of assets within the last 2 years to a spouse, domestic partner, relative, or entity which you have an ownership interest. So if you've gotten rid of some stuff and it's now in someone else's name, you're going to need to list that, because if we find that out later, that could look suspicious. If you have any questions, just refer to first of all, your business accountant and your Caltrans DBE unit. Not all of us have an accountant, that's fine. But just call the DBE unit and they'll be able to give you some guidance. Remember, both the application and the PNW will need to be notarized. So that's really important to remember. This information will also be repeated. I kind of flew through a lot of that, but it's going to be repeated on the DBE website, the Caltrans DBE website, that is. To summarize, here are some important things to remember. Complete your application within 90 days of starting it. Make sure your application and PNW are signed and notarized. Upload all the required documents. So when you go to submit, make sure you've got everything that they're asking from you. You will go to the website on the screen to complete your application. We've listed the link there. You may find outdated information, by the way, on the internet stating you can mail your application. Please disregard that. This may even come from your own previous experience with trying to get certified for a different company, or you may have talked to the company next door to yours and they gave you the advice, oh, you can just mail it in. You cannot. We stopped doing that. I think it was either December or January of this year, December of last year, January of this year. So yeah, anybody that tells you you can mail it in, you can no longer do that. I think it makes sense, by the way, because this is kind of sensitive information and sending it through the U.S. postal system. Probably not ideal. And the application process is now the only way to submit your DBE certification application. So that you have to do it online. Okay. North American Industry Classification System, NAICS. We get a lot of questions about this, but NAICS is a way of identifying exactly what your firm's primary business functions are. NAICS codes, so North American Industry Classification System. NAICS codes assigned to you are assigned to you by your firm by Caltrans, and they kind of tell us what you do and what you're capable of. So by doing your DBE paperwork, we're gonna assign these codes to. So there's not really anything you need to do, but we just like to let you know how that happens. Assign NAICS and work codes. Work codes, by the way, are something that is internal to Caltrans, are assigned based on your primary business activity at the time of certification. So as things stand today. So if you have big plans for your business, I think a lot of business owners do, but they're not in fruition at this moment, then we will only consider what you're capable of today. So if you do, however, obtain an additional license or skill or equipment, and you would like to change your code, you can request the DBE certification. You can request paperwork from the DBE certification office, and they'll add those codes to you after they do their research. Some additional codes will require that additional on-site interviews be conducted if the primary business activity has significantly changed. For example, going from a supplier to a manufacturer, that's a big jump, right? Instead of just selling supplies, you're now manufacturing things. Or a commodities broker to a service provider, again, a big jump. So there could be a situation where they want to do an additional on-site interview for that. So check out more information on the link that we've provided, and it'll kind of explain all that. Caltrans work codes, we sort of mentioned a little bit in the previous slide. In addition to NAICS codes, we also assign Caltrans work codes. It's really for us internally, as confusing as it is to the business world, but it just helps us out. And Caltrans is allowed to do this by authority of the 49 CFR 26.71, and that states that a unified certification program may apply a descriptor from a classification scheme of equivalent detail and business activity. It just means Caltrans can do this legally. These work codes assist with specifically describing the firm's primary business activity. These codes are used internally by Caltrans to further categorize your company's business functions. And we have a link there if you want to find out more information about how we have legal authority to do that. All right, so we've talked a lot about what you need to do to get to the point of being able to submit. So now you're ready to submit. You've completed your application. Your PNW is ready to submit as well. Before submitting, just remember, be sure to use the supporting documents checklist as a reference when preparing your application, and that will be on some of the DBE websites links that we provided. You will find that checklist. Be sure that you have completed each section. Just remember to do that. Don't forget to indicate NA for items that do not apply. I will tell you, when it comes to government, if you just skip a section, that can be problematic. So just make sure if it's not applicable to your business or you don't feel like it's something you need to fill out, that you just put NA. Be sure to sign, date, and notarize the application and the PNW, the personal net worth statement. And if you have any questions, make sure you contact the certification branch by email or phone. So you're welcome to call me about stuff like this, but I'm probably just going to have you talk to them. And that's by design, because when I talk to them about trying to find out, some information on frequently asked questions I get from businesses on this, they were like, hey, just encourage them to reach out to us because we're the experts, which is true. So anyway, they're good people over there and they really know what they're doing. Okay, so here's the bummer. So you've been denied your certification. It happens. And so denial of certifications may be appealed, though, if you believe all the relevant facts have not been considered. Written appeals must be submitted within 90 days of the date of the denial letter. So you get your denial letter, and from 90 days, you have, I'm sorry, from the date on the letter, you have 90 days. And so that clock is ticking if you feel like you should be appealing. Certification denials are not appealable to the US DOT, not the certifying agency. So Caltrans has denied you. You'll actually be appealing through the US Department of Transportation, who kind of oversees us. So you'll deal with US DOT, not Caltrans. The following will need to be explained. Why was the certification decision erroneous? Which significant facts were not considered by the certifying agency? Which regulatory provision was improperly implied? And let's discuss interstate DBE certification. So your business is in California, but you also do stuff in Nevada or Washington. So let's discuss how that works. This involves companies wishing to utilize their DBE certifications outside of the certifying state. There are a few things to keep in mind. Firms must be certified in their home state before certification in another state. So if you wanted to get your DBE certification for a project in Nevada and you didn't have it here in California, it's not going to work. You're going to have to first get certified here in California. That's just one of the rules that the DBE program has. The California Certifying Agency can request on-site report from the home state. So like when we have people trying to get, we'll just reverse it. So when we have a Nevada company who wants to get certified as a DBE here in California, we'll ask for all the paperwork they turned in previously in Nevada. Out-of-state businesses must submit a complete package of all documents that were submitted to their home state certifying agency. So maybe keep those in a file somewhere so that they're ready to go in case this happens where you want to branch out. Interstate certification is not automatic reciprocity. This is kind of weird. This is something that I was actually surprised by. So just because you are certified here in California and you want to get certified in Nevada, they don't necessarily have to provide it because they may disagree with how California certified you. So that's frustrating. I feel like you'd probably have a good, at least a reasonable argument, but that can happen. So we just like to point those things out. Each state must review the other state's determinations and other documentation. Okay, I got lost there for a second. Remaining in good standing as a certified DBE. I think I'm on the next page. There we go. Now we're good. It is your responsibility to notify the DBE certifying agency of any changes, make sure your contact information is correct and up to date, and complete your annual update affidavit, AUA. That's kind of a mouthful. And those are completed yearly. As the title describes, firms submit a no change affidavit stating there haven't been any material changes in the firm's circumstances that would affect its eligibility requirements. So typically this is what's going to happen. So you get DBE certified, it's good for a year. Next year, most likely not too many things have changed. So you're probably going to submit one of these no change affidavits. Make sure though, if things have changed, you are correct with that because again, you could maybe get into trouble with your certification if you don't. Firms will also be asked to submit the prior year tax returns. So that's kind of going to be the big thing is you're turning in your new tax forms from the previous year. So again, this is a year from now after you've become certified. The 5-year AUAs are completed every 5 years as the title describes and continue with the current certification. Firms submit a no change affidavit advising there haven't been any material changes in the firm's circumstances that would affect its eligibility requirements. That's, again, the most common thing that will happen. Firms must also submit their last 3 years of tax returns and a new personal net worth statement. So every 5 years, you're going to turn in a new PNW. There is also a more thorough review at the 5-year update. So it can feel almost like you're going through the certification process again, especially if things have changed and there's a lot for them to process. But just, we just like to let people know what's going to happen. Okay, so I'm DBE certified. Now what? So you turned in all of that paperwork, you've got certified, and now what do you want to do with it? So here's just some recommendations we like to give to people, but they're kind of really general. Be proactive, actively search for opportunities for your business, get acquainted with Caltrans contract look-ahead reports, which provide information about upcoming construction and architectural and engineering contracts. Create a Caltrans Bidding Connect account on Contractors Corner website to market your services using the opt-in feature. So that would be more for like construction-related folks. Attend a pre-bid meeting or contract outreach event. Introduce yourself to your local DSBL. That would be me. Educate yourself. Review Caltrans standard specifications and contract boilerplates to familiarize yourself with basic contract requirements here at Caltrans. Take advantage of free training classes like we are today, and networking events listed on the Caltrans events calendar, and we'll provide that link later. Ask questions early and often. Market your firm. Capability statements, line cards, business cards, focus on relevant work projects and why and how your business stands apart from other businesses, website, LinkedIn, social media. Maintain a positive professional image and make it easy for your prospective contractors and consultants to find you. I will say social media has probably revolutionized small business, and that's definitely a change for someone like myself who grew up without it. But it is something that you might want to just look into. Attend events, so networking, attend events hosted by Caltrans and other public and private entities. If a Caltrans event is open to the public, you're welcome to attend. Some events may require an invitation, however. And then be prepared. Be sure to carefully read contract plans, specifications, and boilerplates. Be responsive when receiving an invitation to bid or request for qualifications. If your bid or proposal is not accepted, seek out feedback to help improve future submittals. That part can be tricky, but hopefully we can get you that information. All right, let's talk about some frequently asked questions. Is there a fee for applying? No. The only cost associated with the DBE certification is the cost to notarize your application and personal net worth statement. Caltrans does not provide this service, so make sure you seek a private notary service in the community. Is the CUCP database different from the DBE directory? No, they're one and the same. So here at Caltrans, what they're talking about is here at Caltrans, you hear our staff refer to it as the DBE directory, and that is the exact same thing as the CUCP database. And they're just two names for the same thing. Can I mail my applications? We talked about it. No, you cannot. They must be submitted online, and the best way to do that is that kind of convoluted way I described earlier, or just go to this link. How long does it take to get a response after I submit my applications? After Caltrans receives all complete and necessary paperwork, it can take up to 1 month for you to hear back. And I believe what they're doing at that time is they're just saying, hey, we received your application is being processed and it has been received. But to become certified, however, it can take up to 90 days from submission of a complete application. So the 90 days, I've said it a few times, is kind of the minimum here. Between you and me, I think that it's taking a lot less time, is what I've been told. They are getting better at it. This online system, as opposed to the mail-in system they used to have, is much quicker. And so they're just getting more streamlined in their approach. So I don't want to guarantee it, but there's a good chance it will take much less than 90 days. So let's talk about some community small business resources that can help your business grow. And there's quite a few. Apex accelerators are specifically assisted with small businesses and bidding on government contractors. I should mention they used to be called PTAC. So if you're familiar with them as being called that, I think if you look up PTAC, that's what it stands for, PTAC. You'll probably be funneled through to the Apex Accelerator, which is their new name. And they specifically help with government contracts. So good to know, right? Golden State Apex, located in Bakersfield, covers most of District 5. And then for the folks in Monterey and Santa Cruz, they have the Monterey Bay Apex Accelerator. They can provide services virtually too. So you don't necessarily have to drive over there. The Women's Business Center, our kind sponsors today, have purposely designed programs and resources for women business operators. So very much a helpful process, I think, for female-owned businesses. All are welcome, however. They have locations throughout California, including here in San Luis Obispo. The Small Business Development Centers offer a multitude of programs to assist new and established companies. Here in San Luis, the SBDC is affiliated with Cal Poly SLO. And again, there might be some overlap between all of these organizations as far as what they can offer, but there also may be some specific things that only each can give you. So I think the more you look into it, the better you'll be able to find what can help you. SCORE focuses on mentoring business operators, I should say, with experienced business people. So they're typically, I don't want to say always, but they're typically going to be retired business folks, and they have San Luis Obispo chapter. And then we have the small, so they'll do kind of more of a mentoring. And again, that will probably be provided by some of the other organizations as well, but that's kind of what their thing is. The Small Business Administration is a federal umbrella agency that assists small businesses and organizations. Their offices and website also act as an informational hub, for small business resources. So they're a federal organization, and they actually are kind of like an umbrella organization for all the previously mentioned ones. And most services are offered by organizations are at no cost or low cost. And so again, there's a lot of great resources out there for you to get. And so we provided some links there to start your journey with them. And we talked about a lot, but Caltrans has a lot of resources to help you as well. Not just for folks interested in DBE, but just small businesses in general. Caltrans has a DBE analyst of the day to answer any questions you may have. It is best to email due to the high call volume, and that's kind of what they told me, but you can call them. Be as detailed as possible with your query. The US DOT DBE program and the DBE federal programs are also great resources, and there's some links provided where you can find out some additional information, just giving you a broader understanding of the DBE program. And so those are going to be at the federal level. The CUCP website also we talked about that a lot, has been included to provide additional information on certifying agencies within the state of California. So there's lots of different agencies. We kind of have to say that, but if you're interested in Caltrans specifically helping you, we'll be happy to do that. Okay, so let's talk about some kind of general small business resources that we offer. And the Office of Civil Rights, I mentioned them previously. They have a lot of small business resources. So the Office of Civil Rights is an internal office here at Caltrans. And for me, like, civil rights doesn't necessarily describe all the things they do. So they do help with civil rights information. But the other thing is they're really heavily involved with our small business program. Contractors Corner is our construction dedicated site. So if you're in construction, you would really want to know that. If you're not, however, then no worries. Cal eProcure would probably be vital to any company, and that's a California government agency. So for California government, that is our main website. So you would want to have a profile on there. If you get certified, you want to make sure your certifications are visible. And I believe they will start a profile for you when you do your DBE paperwork. So if you don't already have one, they can probably start it. But of course, it'll just have the bare bones step on there. So spend a little time, fleshing out that profile on Cal eProcure, because that's a place that other businesses will look to try and find a partner to work with. We also I'd like to highlight the outreach events calendar link that we have on there. The calendar is a great tool if you're looking for specific small business training opportunities like today. Or events where you can network with other businesses or with Caltrans purchasers. This is where you can learn of any upcoming events scheduled to occur in your neighboring district. By clicking on a specific event, it'll tell you which district is hosting, the event details, how to register, and you can even copy the event to your work calendar. There's also a brief synopsis, of course, of what the event is and what topics will be covered. Please note, many of these events are held virtually and have no associated travel costs. So you're going to see events on there for like LA, District 7, and you're going to be like, oh, that sounds so far away. But remember, a lot of them are virtual, so it's really it's really not a problem to be participating in those. We have several more important links to assist you, all DB related information. We have a couple of links on here. So the first one is going to be kind of an informational site, and then the bottom one up there, the caltrans.dbesystem.com is the actual official DBE website, and you'll find probably a lot of the information on the first link will also be on the second. You can search for DBE firms, like I said. A reminder that Caltrans is just one of 10, so we have other folks you can go through, but it's, I'm kind of recommending you go through us, but it's up to you. Please note the state contract and procurement registration system called Skippers here internally. This can be accessed through the Cali Procure website or directly through this provided link. In addition to the Skippers, we also have provided the link to the contract cost data for construction-related contract research. So that middle one would be more for the construction folks. If you're not in construction, it's probably not as important. But if you visit either of these websites, you can look up past bids and see what departments are purchasing items and services that your company offers. So it's a good place to kind of do a little bit of research. Okay, so here we have a map of California, and this shows all the districts. I mean, I don't expect anybody outside of Caltrans, I have to refer to it a lot as well, but to know exactly where, which district you're even in or what districts are surrounding you. You'll also notice that unfortunately they're not as in order as it would have been helpful to do because we've added districts over time. For instance, Orange County is now its own district, so it's not a huge geographic area, but population-wise, it's quite large. We've also listed the districts and each of their 12 district headquarters. So just so you know, I'm coming to you from the District 5 headquarters here in San Luis Obispo. But we have various facilities throughout our district, so that's not the only places in that Caltrans has. If you click on each emboldened district's name, it will link you to that district's web pages on the main dot.ca.gov. So dot.ca.gov is the Caltrans main website, and just to confuse you even more, Caltrans' actual official name is Department of Transportation, or the California Department of Transportation. This is the official title, but most people know us as Caltrans, and you can find a lot of things online if you just type in Caltrans. But dot.ca.gov is the main website, and everything Caltrans related will be on there. And again, once again, including like District 5 will have its own web area on the main site. A reminder that this presentation will be sent out, so you'll have all these links to access. All 12 Caltrans districts have at least one district small business liaison or DSBL. Because each district operates, slightly differently, some procurement processes will have small differences. So the best resources, is to contact maybe the DSBL for the district you're wishing to do business in. So let's just say you're located here in San Luis Obispo. Can you sell to a Caltrans district in Los Angeles? Absolutely. We encourage that. It doesn't really matter where you want to do business, but just kind of reach out to the local folks to get the specific information to help you. The DSBLs serve as the district's primary point of contact for small business related concerns, including DBE, right? And efforts to increase participation of certified businesses for the SB, DBE, or of course the DBE like we're talking about today. In addition, DSBLs provide outreach and advocacy services. Once again, I and the other district small business liaisons are your primary point of contact when trying to work with our department, at least initially. At some point, you may have other folks that are going to be a greater resource for you. There's also a web link to the contact page for all the Caltrans DSBL. So if you click on that link there, it'll take you to the names and the emails and phone numbers for all the DSBLs throughout the state. So think of it as a concierge. So each district, by the way, has like one, but there will be some districts like District 4, which is the Bay Area. They have 2. I think District 11 in San Diego, they have 2 DSBLs. So just more folks for you to be able to reach out to. All right, so that brings us to the end of today's presentation, Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Certification Overview. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to unmute if you do.
It looks like you're still unmuted. Yes, I have a couple of questions. So is there a minimum number of years in business that you have to have been in order to qualify for DBE?
So you're gonna see a lot of official information that'll say 3 years because they're gonna
Mhm.
want 3 years of records. But here's what I was told by the people who do the certifying unit rather here at Caltrans, is that they'll kind of work with you if you have less than that. So let's say you started 2 years ago. Now I can't. I'm just telling you what they told me. There may be other considerations that they have to look at. For instance, if you've been in business less than a year, that could be an issue because you don't have any um, tax information to give them because you haven't come to the end of your financial year. So that
Right.
would be my only thing that I could see could be a complication. But for the most part, yes, you would be able to move forward if you had less than 3 years.
Okay, great. And then you mentioned about the independence. And what if, so I'm as a professional services, someone who provides professional services, um, I don't have necessarily a lot of employees, but I'll contract out work. Is that still acceptable?
So that gets into so two things that we get to ask the most about are like franchising and subcontracted employees. And I can tell you that I am not the expert on that, but my thought is it would say subcontracted employees in our information, and I don't see that listed anywhere. So I don't know how that works. That would be a question for them
Okay.
because there are what Michelle is probably addressing here is that there's employee number maxes that you can have for you to be in some of these certification programs. And so if you technically don't have any, but then you have like 50 people who are subcontractors who are like 1099,
Hmm.
it can get into more complicated territory. So I would address that particular question to the certifying to the DBE certification unit. And apologies for not. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing, Michelle, is what it comes
Oh,
down
no,
to.
yeah, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those weird fuzzy gray areas, right? And
It
in
is. It
professional
is fuzzy.
services,
Yeah, it is fuzzy. Yeah, for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and so like I'm in construction industry, but I'm not, out in the field. I'm professional services providing um,
Okay.
consulting for engineering.
Right.
So, we don't necessarily always have a lot of employees for that case. So that's why I asked. But I appreciate it, and that's definitely something I can follow up with.
Oh yeah, no problem. Did you have another question?
Nope, that's all for me. Thank you so much.
Excuse
Great
me.
presentation, good information.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate you saying that. And so, and thank you for those great questions as well. So to me, so we here at Caltrans, if you want to work with our agency and you qualify for all or any of those three certifications, so small business, um, disabled veteran business enterprise, disadvantaged business enterprise. If you apply, you should apply for all three if you do in fact qualify for all three. But the DBE, just based on the fact that I'm assuming you're identifying as a woman, you probably
Yeah.
qualify for that, right? And that might be
Mhm.
the case for if it is Joyce, who's joining us as well. So, um, I think the DBE certification is a pretty cool thing. Just remember one thing though, and it's hard to keep this kind of straight, but DBE certification is only going to be come into consideration when it's a federally sourced contract. And where that gets confusing is it not all construction contracts. We'll just stick with construction for argument's sake. Not
Sure.
all construction or A&E contracts are going to be federally sourced. If they're not federally sourced, then that's when your small business certification comes into play. That's why, to me, most of the businesses I'm going to talk to for sure meet the eligibility requirements for small business. So I would get that one as well if you're contemplating. It's important because your DBE certification, you're going to work hard on it, and then the first contract you want to become involved in, you're going to find out is state funded, and they don't, and that's a frustrating. And there's a lot of complicated political reasons as to why that's the case. But DBE is only on federally sourced contracts.
Great, good to know. Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah, no problem.